This week we're gonna my tutorial lesson here is just going to cover some small things. Some of them will be a little bit of a review, but just kind of pulling in some things that are used somewhat, but not often. Um, but let's see. Start with we've talked about the stretch command way back earlier in the semester, but you're using it this week in the lesson. So what I've got a rectangle drawn here, a polygon. And I'm going to use the stretch command. So I've selected that, and I want to select a base point. And then when I drag, oh, what? I didn't understand that. Let's go back again. Let's say stretch, and I'm going to do a crossing boundary over that, and enter. Now my base point there, there we go. And now I can tell it how far over I want it to go, and so I'm going to say 3. And so I've stretched it out. And a lot of times it works out easier if you've got a bit of a dimension there so you can see what you're doing. And then if I wanted to copy the circles over, okay, I'll select that one and I'll go copy, and I'll choose the center of this one as the base point and then move it over to center of there as a base point. And so now I've copied it, but I've kept that same spacing as I've gone through there. Okay, so in a case like this where you've got a whole series of circles in a row, there's a couple of different ways you can do center lines. Okay, one, well, let me pop over to the right layer, and I'll go center mark, and I'm going to place center marks in these two. Okay, and remember we talked about center marks, and the settings for them are based on units, and those are program defaults, okay, that can be changed. And I have not made the changes since I installed the new version of AutoCAD here on my computer. So we'll just leave them set as the defaults for right now. But in a case like this, your center lines should continue on across. And if I do that and join them, see it kind of gives me another center mark here, but it's not very evenly spaced. So if I were to take this one, I can't drag it to the inside of the circle, but I could drag it back to the edge of the circle. And I would hesitate to drag this one on over. Well, it doesn't want to go over any further. That's one way to kind of play with them. A better way to deal with this would just be to draw a line. Oh, what happened? Just draw another line between them as a center line. And then you can line type scale that one down. To put a dash in the middle. Now your dash is still not going to be 1/8 of an inch long like we normally would do. That's one way to deal with those things. Another way is just to draw your center lines, and we'll put that one in the circle like that. And that's got it to the edge of the circles. And then we can lengthen that with the lengthen command. If you select and then just kind of hover over one of the handles, you get a lengthen here, but it gives you an idea of the overall thing, and we'll say we want that to come out 0.25 inch. Okay, so that's one way to deal with the lengthen in an automatic. Another way is you just start the lengthen command type LEN, enter, and then select your object. And if I want to go, the object is delta, so DE, enter, and now I enter in my length of 0.25, and I'll select that into the line. Now I'll do it again on this one, so we'll go lengthen, select that object, delta, DE, enter 0.25 because I did it previously, and then I can click both ends of the line and it will extend those out. Okay, and then I can, because remember that's a one line going across, so I can select that and go copy from the center to the center, and I've placed it there. And because these are individual lines, you know, I can drag those on over. But you see how it messes that up right there. So I don't have a pattern that's consistent. So in this case, I would put another line in between those. And then if I wanted a line break in the middle there, I would have to do a line type scale, just like I did on the other side. Okay, so that was a couple of ways of dealing with repeating center lines. Okay. Or, you know, actually, instead of connecting them, I could just draw a shorter line maybe a little bit shorter again. So it gives the appearance of the dash in there, and it keeps my center line pattern going. So those are a couple of different ways of dealing with those. The scale command, now I know we did talk about that, but sometimes, especially when you're drawing these weird shapes like a pentagon, yeah, you could draw it with the length option for the side, but the pentagon is one of those shapes to where the radius of the circle that it's inscribed or circumscribed about doesn't mathematically play well with the size of the shape, okay, because it's a weird angle for all the angles. And so let's say you've drawn one and got it in the right location, but it's the wrong size. You want that size to be 4. So you could use your scale command. So we'll go scale and we'll select the pentagon. And then I'm going to pick a base point right here. And I want to go reference. So I'll go R for reference. And then it asks me for the reference length. And so I'll pick the length of one side. And now I want the new length. And we'll say I want it to be 4.5 inches. Okay. And so that's one way to use the scale command with a reference. All right. Another thing, let's see, join. We did talk about join previously. I've got 2 lines here that are collinear. And it just depends on how you're drawing your shape, or maybe something got trimmed out in the middle while you were trimming, and you can join them. They don't have to be connected, but they do have to be collinear. So they have to be straight in line with each other. And so that joins it into one line entity. Now here's another thing in creating like a rounded slot, if you will, or an object that is squared off on one end but rounded on the other. Or it could be, it could be a slot with rounds at both ends. Either one of those work the same way. Okay, so one way of drawing these slots is I've got a rectangle, okay, and then I'll draw a circle. And if you got your midpoint O snaps turned on, you could do it there. I got the wrong layer turned on, so let me change those over. Okay, and so I've got a rectangle, which is a polyline, and then two circles. And I could, yeah, you could trim that. Another way is to explode it. And the explode command will convert polygons or, yeah, polygons or polylines into individual line segments. And now I can just trim. Trim those things out, and then I've got a slot. Okay. Another thing or command that I don't think we've covered is the quick select. And so if I right click into my screen and come down here, quick select, I can select things within the drawing based on any of these properties here. I could select everything of a particular color or everything on a particular layer. And so let's say I want to select everything on the dimension layer, and we'll say OK. And so it selects those. This is one way if you've got a whole bunch of things drawn on the wrong layer and you need to move them to a different layer, or maybe you need to delete them, or well, it's a way to select a lot of different things at one time. Okay, if you need to do something with that, and it works with colors, layers, line type scale. If you've assigned individual line type scales to something, but you've got to know what the line type scales are, I'll say 0.5. I have nothing at a line type scale of 0.5. The other options, okay, so this would work here. So is not equal to 1. And so there I've got that one line right there that is not of a line type scale of 1. So that's another way to use that tool. That pretty much covers our tutorials. You got an assignment this week that deals with text and scaling and dividing lines into multiple units with nodes and points. So, and then we've got the final exam coming up here soon. So if you've got questions, send us an email or come see us, okay?